With friends like Blake, who needs enemies? I want to go through this article because this is something that I've experienced so many times in my life. And I know that many of you also have. This is when a friend comes to you and says, you need to take sides. You need to stop talking to this person. It really makes me upset to be thrown into these types of situations. So, we're going to go through this article. We're going to talk about what this looks like in our lives. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to navigate this in your own relationships. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. The article is titled, Blake Lively Threatened to Expose Taylor Swift's Private Text Unless She Publicly Sided with Her in Justin Baldoni Feud. So this is worse than just telling someone take sides. This is blackmail, and these two are supposed to be besties. The article begins, Blake Lively allegedly threatened to leak embarrassing private texts from bestie Taylor Swift unless the pop star agreed to publicly back the actress in her feud with co-star Justin Baldoni. DailyMail.com can exclusively reveal. The explosive revelation appears in a legal letter filed Wednesday by Baldoni's lawyers in response to Lively's request to quash their subpoena to the singer. The court filing alleges that the Gossip Girl alum had tried to pressure Swift, 35, to issue a public statement in support of her and urged her to delete text messages between them during her escalating legal battle with Baldoni. The latest twist sheds further light on the collapse of Lively and Swift's once close friendship, which has gone cold amid the actress's high-stakes lawsuit involving the actor. Since then, both Swift and Lively have been subpoenaed for communications about the case, despite the superstar's attempts to distance herself from the furor. And the letter to the judge obtained by Daily Mail, Baldoni's legal team, led by Brian Friedman, hit back at Lively's wrong claims that the proposed subpoena to Swift seeks irrelevant documents. The article continues, according to the letter, Baldoni's attorneys received information that Ms. Lively requested that Taylor Swift delete their text messages, which according to inside sources may have contained details from over a decade of friendship, relationships, and private confidences. It also claims Lively's lawyer, Michael Gottlieb, had contacted Swift's attorney and demanded that Ms. Swift release a statement of support for Ms. Lively, intimating that if Ms. Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature in Ms. Lively's possession would be released. Okay, so we're seeing two things here. The first is that Blake directly went to Taylor and asked her to delete text messages. The second is the attorney asked Taylor to release a statement. And if she didn't, private text messages of a personal nature would be released. This is very interesting because these are two different dynamics that are happening here. So let's break it down and talk about it. Blake asking Taylor to delete text messages, I think, is a major boundary violation on multiple levels. This is not just a red flag, it's a strategic erasure of history. Blake is trying to rewrite the past, essentially. It's a request to delete evidence of reality. This is a form of emotional revisionism where the manipulator wants control over how the story is remembered or not remembered at all. If those texts included intimate confessions, relationship details, and trust built over time, then asking for their deletion is a violation of the emotional labor Taylor put into the friendship. It's one thing to set a boundary about future privacy, but it's another to demand retroactive deletion, especially when it's tied to a legal risk. Although it doesn't look like Blake is threatening Taylor with an impact to their friendship, there does seem to be a loyalty test here. Blake could be using this as a test of allegiance. Delete the messages sounds eerily like prove you're loyal to me by erasing your side of the truth. Let's talk about a couple of ways that this may materialize in your own relationships. You could have an ex that texts you a month later and says, "Can you delete all our messages? I don't want my new partner to see them. It's just easier if there's no record of us." Or they say something like, "If you ever loved me, you'll delete those pics and chats." This is a red flag. They're asking you to rewrite history so they can present a curated version of themselves to someone else. In a family, you could have a parent that tells you, "Let's just forget all that happened. It's not helpful to bring up the past." Or if a sibling says, "Don't tell anyone what happened that night, just say you don't remember." In both of these examples, we can assume that the past includes abuse or neglect. And secrecy here is prioritized over healing. It's emotional silencing disguised as forgiveness or maturity. And in the workplace, it could be your boss that comes and tells you that conversation never happened. Don't mention it to anyone. This is about plausible deniability and protecting power, not protecting you. You're being groomed into complicity. I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to navigate these situations. The first is recognize the real request. Is this about protecting privacy or protecting their image? If they're trying to erase only the parts that reflect poorly on them, that's not privacy, it's manipulation. Number 2, keep the receipts, even if you don't use them. You are allowed to keep evidence for your own safety and clarity. Just because someone wants something deleted doesn't mean you have to comply, especially if it helps you stay grounded in the truth. Number 3, trust your memory over their rewrites. If someone's narrative constantly shifts, especially when it benefits them, it's okay to trust your own version of events. Journal or screenshot your own reflections if you start second guessing. Number 4, boundaries aren't erasers. You can set a boundary about future contact without having to erase the past. Healthy people will say, "Let's move forward with honesty." Manipulative people will say, "Pretend none of it ever happened." And number 5, ask yourself, what would deleting this cost me? Would you be giving away your power, your clarity, or your voice? Deleting evidence of harm may bring them relief, but leave you with confusion or unresolved pain. Let's get to the second action that happens here. You're having Blake's attorney contact Taylor's attorney. And to me, this is flying monkey behavior. In narcissistic dynamics, flying monkeys are people that the narcissist uses, often subtly or manipulatively, to carry out their agenda, defend their image, or act on their behalf. Sometimes these people know they're being used, and sometimes they don't. And in this example, the lawyers know, or Blake's lawyer knows exactly what they're doing. So even though this is happening through attorneys, the psychological dynamic is clear. There is pressure and implied threats. Just because this is coming from a lawyer doesn't mean it's not emotional coercion. Flying monkeys don't always look like messy friends or family, they can look like professionals. Blake isn't confronting Taylor directly on this specific point. She's outsourcing the confrontation through her lawyer, which adds a layer of intimidation under the guise of formality. Blake is essentially saying, "If you don't publicly support me, I'll release your private messages." This is emotional blackmail dressed up in PR speak and delivered through a legal mouthpiece. There's also triangulation that's happening here. Blake's lawyer isn't just contacting Taylor's lawyer, they're creating a triangle of pressure where Taylor is boxed in, forced to choose between self protection and public loyalty. This is the same tactic narcissists use when they involve third parties to enforce their will so their hands stay clean. Even without directly saying, "We'll leak your text," the implication is loud and clear. It's not a request, it's a veiled threat. And threats are about control and not communication. Anytime someone says, "Do this or else," it's no longer a conversation, it's a power play. Forcing someone to perform loyalty under threat is not friendship. True loyalty is given and not extracted. Let's talk through some examples of how you may have experienced this. Your ex texts your mutual friend and says, "Tell them if they don't stop posting about what happened between us, I'll release those private photos. I don't want to, but I will if they keep running their mouth." You hear about this through the friend and not directly. Flying monkey behavior and emotional blackmail are what are happening here through triangulation. The ex stays clean by having someone else carry out the threat. So, how do you protect yourself in this situation? You cut the triangle. You tell the middle party you won't respond to threats passed through others. You document everything. Keep screenshots in case escalation occurs. And don't perform. Refuse to be manipulated into performative silence or false loyalty. In a friendship, you could have a former friend who is mad that you've pulled away. Instead of addressing you directly, she tells another friend, "She better not bring up what I told her about my relationship. If she does, I'll tell people what I know about her too." This is emotional extortion. She's using your silence as currency while positioning herself as the victim behind the scenes. How do you protect yourself in this situation? The first is respond with neutrality or not at all. The goal is to bait you into emotional reactivity. Speak truth publicly if needed, but not as a defense. In a family, you could have an aunt that tells your sibling, "If she doesn't come to the family dinner and apologize to your mom, we're going to tell everyone what she did at the wedding. We've kept quiet to protect her." This is family triangulation and threat based loyalty. This is about silencing and punishment cloaked in family unity. So, how do you protect yourself in this situation? You name the dynamic. Say, "If there's an issue, they can speak to me directly." Don't reward threats. Caving in teaches the family that control works. And at work, your boss avoids telling you about an issue directly, but instead tells HR, who then pressure you to voluntarily apologize or step down from a project, or else your past performance reviews will come up. These are institutional flying monkeys where formal structures are used to push an unspoken agenda. And how do you protect yourself? Ask for everything in writing. If the request is legitimate, they'll stand by it. Document the chain of communication and who said what. Stay calm and non reactive. Emotion is often what they're trying to provoke. Here are some universal signs you're being targeted by this behavior. You receive threats, ultimatums, or guilt trips indirectly. You're expected to prove your loyalty under pressure. Someone uses emotional leverage as insurance. The person behind the pressure stays in the shadows. And here are 5 tips for you. Number one, name it to disarm it. The second you recognize this is triangulation, you remove its psychological power. Number two, don't let the middleman be the messenger. Calmly say, "I don't respond to threats passed through others. They can contact me directly." Number three, don't take the bait. These tactics work only if you react. Silence, neutrality, or clear boundary setting removes their oxygen. Number four, save everything quietly, whether it's screenshots, messages, or your own notes. Protect your peace and your proof. And finally, don't perform loyalty. If someone's trying to force you to make a public statement or take a side, ask yourself, would they do the same for me, or are they just afraid of exposure? I'm curious to know what you all think about this. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you feel comfortable sharing your experience, please do that too. We've built such a lovely community here, and I just love how much everybody uplifts each other. If this video was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. I want to thank you all so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.